Hello, hello. I guess we're your first pair talk.
I think so,
right?
yeah.
I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool.
Exciting, exciting. You even dressed for the occasion.
I know. Look, we kind of matched. I kept it untucked a little bit.
Yeah,
though,
a little contrast.
That's good. Hi, everybody. We're going to talk to you about principles and practices. But we should probably talk about that title, shouldn't we?
Yeah, a little dry.
It's pretty sterile, to be honest with you. So in the spirit of maybe injecting a little bit more fun here, we're going to kind of change it up a little bit, right?
I think so,
And give the people what maybe they want. This is a fight, right? Between, in this corner, the theory jockey, and in this corner, the tool junkie. These are archetypes that we find in our daily work all the time. You are probably on one side or the other, at least to some degree. Generally, people are a mix of these. I tend to skew tool junkie. Eli tends to skew theory jockey. So I'm going to hand it over to Eli. He's going to introduce himself here.
Yes, I'll be your theory jockey for the day. I outgrew my jockey outfit a while ago, unfortunately, so forced to dress in this. I hail from the great state of California, Monterey Bay Area, a little south of Silicon Valley, just outside enough to actually be slightly more affordable, oddly enough, but hey, you know, it is California, so it's still crazy expensive for the most part. I teach, or I've taught for the past 5 years at the D School. I teach undergraduates there in the product design program. I teach a class that's meant for the students to bring a product idea from concept to market over 2 quarters, so it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it quite a bit. And in my work at InVision, I work a lot on content for companies to just elevate design practice kind of across the board. You know, we're especially keen on helping larger companies that are maybe struggling to transform into more design-driven companies. So to that end, one of the big content pushes we've done over the past year is a site called designbetter.co. Any of you guys out there familiar with Design Better?
There
cool.
we go.
Awesome.
Nice.
If you haven't been to the site, we've got a couple different pieces of content on there. We've got books, we've got a podcast, we've got workshops, and a newer feature called Conversations, which is sort of like a mini kind of one-on-one AMA format thing. So that's a fun one to check out if you haven't seen it. And in the course of doing all this work, obviously I do a lot of research, I do a lot of talking to companies, and I do a lot of reading. And so pretty much right now, I'm really a theory jockey, although I used to have my hands more in the product design process. So you know, there's some key ways to tell if you're a theory jockey like me. You're currently reading more than 4 books at a time. Anybody out there in the audience?
How many books are you reading, Eli?
I think around 6, and I'll probably only get through like 3 of them, maybe. And you know how we set that policy, like unlimited books, if they're related to your...
Unlimited books.
I think I was the one that maybe changed that policy.
Open Pandora's box a little bit.
Yeah, sorry about that. I apologize. The other thing that you might know if you're a theory jockey, so you maybe love books like Edward Tufte's Visual Explanations, and quote from it regularly. That's for case studies, a lot of great case studies in here, especially the one around the Challenger disaster. You might also use words like cognitive, superfluous, fisticuffs.
Fisticuffs, that's my favorite.
That's a good one. So given all this, how many of you out here consider yourself theory jockeys? Don't be afraid to raise your hand. Okay, probably in the minority. It's okay. You're safe. It's a safe space. I'm going to pass it over to Stephen. He's going to talk a little bit about the tool junkie side.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Stephen. I left my cybernetic eye at home, so sorry about that. I hail from Arizona. I was born and raised, never left, love it. And that's one of the cool things about working at InVision is we got people all over the world, right? So I've got people in Jerusalem, in Pennsylvania, all over. I'm a total sci-fi nerd. Okay, this is me. This is part of my tool junkie thing. I don't think all tool junkies are this, but a lot of them are. So Star Wars is my particular brand.
Even some theory jockeys like Star Wars.
That's right. But we'll do Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica. I'm all the things. And I've been at InVision for almost 4 years now, I think, and it's changed a lot. So when I joined, we were about 30 people, I think. And then 4 years later, I think we're almost 650 now. So it's been a big change. And in that time, I've worn a number of hats all over.
4 years in startup years, that's like 30 years?
Yeah,
like that?
Seriously. Seriously. So it's been a fun ride. I started out in product design, moved over to research, moved over to product management, and then today I head up our design partnerships team. So as you can imagine, as a tool junkie, I get pretty excited about tools, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. This is one of the things that I'm working on right now with the team here is InVision Studio, which is currently in early access. It's our visual design and prototyping and motion tool. And you might know that you're a tool junkie like me if one of the following is true. You obsessively check Product Hunt more than once an hour.
I see some people out there.
I think I was sitting behind somebody and I saw them have it up, so I know that's true. You can't hide. You still don't understand why Google Glass wasn't fashionable? Why are you laughing? I don't get it. Doesn't everybody want to be Geordie LaForge? He's cool, right?
You know, I actually ran into Sergey Brin once wearing that, and he's the only guy that looked like he's about afraid to get punched in the face when he was wearing it.
You can pull it off. You can pull it off. And maybe you've added an Apple or a Google Keynote to your actual calendar at some point, because heaven forbid that get overbooked, right? You're totally a tool junkie. So with that in mind, raise your hands. How many of you are tool junkies? Good, good. How many of you are holding a device right now? Just hold it up for a second. You lied. All of you lied. Yeah. You're totally tool junkies. I knew I'd get you on that one. OK. So sometimes we really work well together, right?
Let's hug it out.
Let's hug it out right now. Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's great, right? Like, you've got strengths. I've got strengths. You've got weaknesses. I've got weaknesses.
You compliment.
You complete me, right?
Yes. Right. We don't say this on a daily basis, but sometimes we get this.
But there's also those other times.
Yeah. Get in our corners, kind of.
Yeah. Those times where we maybe get under each other's skin a little bit. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, stop chatting about process. Let's just get stuff done, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm sharing too many tooling links in Slack for you. And you're just like, stop it, dude. We changed tools.
How many prototyping tools?
2 weeks ago. Stop it. Yeah. So really, here's the point. This is why we're talking about. We have this dynamic. All of us have this dynamic in the places that we work. And so really, we've got to find balance in that, right? We've got to play to each other's strengths because it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we're very different. But taken to the extreme, it can be destructive. So we've got to find that balance. And in doing so, hopefully we have a lot of those heart emoji moments. And picking a hate emoji is kind of rough. So skull and crossbones will suffice for this right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in and talk to the tool junkies. And there's quite a bit of them in the audience here. And we're going to talk about finding balance as a tool junkie. So first, what are the things that we do really well, and then what are the things that we need to be aware of? Because I'm really convinced that our greatest strengths are often our greatest weaknesses.
I like how you've got some books over here on the side balancing
we've already have you balancing me out with your many
Did we mention the illustrations, by the way?
Oh, we didn't mention. So all of the illustrations in this presentation have been done by the excellent Pablo Stanley. Amazing, amazing guy. He works on the studio team. He's working on the studio ecosystem team. Also happens to be an amazing illustrator. So thanks to him for illustrating it. Woo! That's right. And I wanted to start off the tool junkie balance conversation with this quote from the great Steve Jobs. And he said, "The computer is the most remarkable tool that we've ever come up with. It's the equivalent of a bicycle for our minds." I love, love, love this one. And the point here, the context here, rather, of this one was that there was a study done, and it was about locomotion. It was about speed. And all the species on planet Earth were compared, and humans ranked really low. And that was kind of disappointing, right? But when they put a human on a bicycle and measured them against all the other species, suddenly the human did very well, right? And the whole point being that we're tool builders, right? To build tools is what makes us unique as humans. So you could say being a tool junkie is being human. Right? I'm going to go with that anyways. And then there's this great, because I'm a sci-fi guy, there's this great quote by H.G. Wells. "When I see an adult on a bicycle, I no longer despair for the future of the human race." So,
unless they're a bike messenger in San Francisco, which can get pretty aggro sometimes.
You didn't despair, did you? So I'm going to go with that metaphor because we've got it in 2 quotes here. That keeps my theme going. There's lots of different types of bikes, okay? There's mountain bikes, there's city bikes, there's motorcycles, there are hand-pedaled bikes. You're a big bike guy.
Love bikes.
And dual-seater bikes, all different types of bikes. But they're really unified by that primary intent, which goes back to the Steve Jobs quote, right? Which is that they make you faster, right? They get you from A to B faster than walking. That's a primary intent of a bicycle. Lots of different permutations, very similar primary intent. Now, that's not to discount the fact that there are many secondary intents with this, right? We might do it for physical exercise, and we might do it because it's fun. We might transport things. We might transport people. Even a wheelchair is essentially a bicycle that's allowing locomotion. And then there's stuff like this. There's stuff like this, I'm telling you. And what's funny is when you look at something like this, I guarantee there's probably a couple reactions in the audience in here. I'm going to ask you to be honest, too. How many of you, when you first saw this, were like, what is that? I need to ride on that. Like, how is that working? There are little gears that are making these legs work? This is crazy. Like, this is super cool. And then there's other people.
Like, how is this efficient? Or, what kind of the principle? You've thrown out all the principles of designing a bicycle. This is just terrible.
Yeah, but why? That sort of thing. So what do we do with this? Oh, and H.G. Wells, he's probably like losing his mind here. I don't know if this like reinforces things for him, his faith in humanity, or reduces it. We may never know. So let's go back to our primary intent of the bike. Does this bike get me from A to B quicker than walking? Well, let's look at some footage, right? Like here's an installation that we found on the interwebs of people riding this. And I think it will just take you a few seconds to realize that that's probably not quicker than walking. It's maybe we're breaking even here, right?
You're a very slow walker.
Yeah. Look at that thing. He's booking it a little bit more. So let's come back to our primary intent of the bike. If that's the primary intent of that bike is not to get from A to B quicker than walking, what's the point, right? There is a point. There is a point, right? It's about artistic expression or technical exploration. And my point here to all the tool junkies out there is that this has a place, but we must know its place, right? So going back to a case study, since this is a case study conference, we kicked off a labs entity last year, I think it was like a year and a half ago, and for this very reason, because we realized that some of our best discoveries only happen when we're free to dream and play and hack, and have a safe space for that. So that's what we did. We created kind of a safe space. We had an actual
secret
office
location
for it. Secret location.
Prague, I think. Wait, sorry.
You blew the secret location. Yeah, Prague. And so there's been a number of cool things that have come out of that. Some stuff that comes out of here doesn't go anywhere, right? We don't do anything with it. But then there's other things. So for example, the craft suite, which is one of our tools that we have today, one of our product offerings. It's a plugin suite for both Sketch and Photoshop. That actually came out of labs, right? So we've got multiple plugins now these days that are part of that suite.
I'm going to help you out for a minute, Steven. You got a little flyaway.
See?
Scotch tape.
There we go.
There you go.
And this actually started out as just the data plugin, which really started out as me and one other developer hacking in a Google Doc saying, hey, you know what stinks? Working with data with real designs. Like, we need better controls for this sort of thing. How might we do that? And we just started hacking at things and pitching it, and it started to take on a life of its own. So sometimes you get some really amazing things that come out of this. And it's not just us doing this, right? There's these sort of things all over the place. So Microsoft does this. They have the Garage. If you haven't checked it out, it's really cool. They do some really cool experiments and projects, and some fun stuff has come out of that. Also, Tihan and Lax, before Jeff and John joined Facebook, they had Tihan and Lax Labs, and they did some really cool stuff. This is an example of one where they took Google Maps Street View data, time-lapsed it, and they also managed to figure camera rotation and algorithm. They put some cool music to this, and they just put it out there, right? Just because it's cool, like it's fun to do.
This used to be my commute.
This is your commute, yeah. This is live footage of him bicycling very fast. And there's this quote by John Lax I wanted to share with you that I think is really great. He says, Labs, it has one main value, exploring the creative uses of technology, and a second value of sharing knowledge and reducing complexity. Both of these values are internally targeted, meaning we do these things for ourselves, not directly for clients. He knows where this exists. He knows where the value is in this. So my whole point by saying this is, as tool junkies, we need to be honest about the primary and secondary objectives that we have for our products. Oftentimes we flip them. Sometimes we do it without thinking. Sometimes we do it purposely just because we like to play. So I'm going to ask a very difficult question. We're going to ask a couple tough questions. He's got a couple tough questions for the theory jockeys later. I've got some for you now. Question: am I solving the real primary problem that actually exists? And when I ask this question, you may feel like that a little bit. Also, I really love this GIF. I really wanted to work it in. So, but because you'd be like, of course I am, right? I wouldn't be doing my job that I'm doing right now if I didn't have the user's primary. It just keeps giving, I'm telling you. We'll go on. So here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with creative self-expression and exploration through tooling. And really, it's how we often learn best as tool junkies, right? It's a way of learning. It's a way of exploring our world. It's a very natural sort of thing. But, there's always a but, when we're doing it at the user's expense, or in other words, when we're saying, hey, this secondary intent, it's actually the primary intent, right? I really want to use this new tool, or I really want to use this new thing, and it's serving the users, right? No, it's actually selfish. Face slap. It's actually selfish. So we have to be aware of that, right? When we're inverting those, we're inverting primary and secondary as tool junkies, we can get into a lot of problems because ultimately we're forgetting our place and we're leaving our users in the dust. Okay, question number 2. How much time do I spend nerding out on tooling and workflow items? Here's a real-time clock for how much time I spend on it. Maybe yours looks a little bit similar like that. And certainly, keeping up with the latest in tech is an important thing, right? It gives us a competitive edge. It helps us be efficient. Using the right tools. You're talking to a guy who loves tools and works for a tooling company. It's important. It helps us optimize. But there is a point where we have another one of those buts, right? And if we're not careful, this happens, right? We get eaten absolutely alive, right? If we don't set boundaries for these sort of things, our time will just completely go away. So we have to balance that out. That may be a labs entity, that may be a research and development entity, or it may just be having healthy boundaries for yourself and inviting people to keep you accountable for that. So that's my talk for that. I'm going to hand it over to you. You can talk to the theory jockeys here.
Balance. So love the kind of meditative state here. Talked by Vicky earlier was great. So balance for the theory jockey. We had pleasure of interviewing Daniel Burka, who was at conference here last year, and he had this great quote that the older you get as a designer, the more you realize you don't know anything. But if you can embrace that fact that you don't know, but you can go out and find out, you can be that much more effective. And that really resonated with me because I've spent a lot of my life kind of seeking knowledge and reading up, like diving really deep into subjects. But I think what Daniel's saying here is just stepping back for a moment and realizing what your real superpower is if you are a theory jockey is being able to know where to look to find the answers, not to get so fixated on being an expert on everything that you're working on. So we're going to try to do a little mind shift today around the theory jockey personality. We'll start off with some questions, like Stephen did. So am I realizing a perfect state that probably doesn't exist? And there's actually a formal diagnosis for this. It's called the Mary Poppins syndrome because if you've seen the movie, many of you have probably as kids, she comes in the beginning and she's singing about being practically perfect in every way. And throughout the movie, you're just kind of waiting and like, is she really that perfect? I mean, she's got to like smoke a cigar or something, right? But in the end, no, she's practically perfect. And I think we sometimes, theory jockeys, can get in that mindset of just the platonic ideal and achieving perfection in our process.
We thought we came up with that term, by the way, and Google's, no.
Yeah.
We thought we were being really unique. That's actually a thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And there's a lot of aphorisms around perfectionism. The best is the enemy of good, good old Voltaire, or Confucius, better a diamond with a flaw than the pebble without one. Or outside of a book, a dog is man's best friend. Inside of a dog, it's too hard to read. That's actually unrelated, but I just like that quote a lot. It's got books, and I like dogs. So I want to tell a little story. I know this is around case studies. This is kind of more of a story than a case study. So early in my career, I worked on physical products. and my first job in physical product design was designing underwater camera housings for a company. Now, this company had the perfect ideal for what these housings should be. They should be something that you could take fantastic pictures with. It could be on the cover of National Geographic that professionals and beginners alike would use. And in the end, this perfectionism really stalled out the growth of the company. And so I got really into photography myself, did trips like this. Now that I have little kids, my wife doesn't let me do this anymore, but it's fun at the time. And when designing these housings, the perfectionism that we tried to attain through the engineering design really blinded us to a much bigger market that was out there. So we were thinking that these images need to be the best quality ever for everybody. But what we missed was what GoPro discovered, which is that really what most people want, what the much bigger marketplace wants, is an easy way to go out and capture the stories in these kind of more extreme environments. And so they were able to capture a market that we were blinded to because of our kind of insistence on perfection. And it's sort of this, we hear a lot about 80-20. In this case, let's even push it a little further. That first 95% of the effort you put into designing a new product uses a certain amount of energy, right? But that last 5% is basically an equivalent amount of energy. So knowing where to draw the line, knowing where to ship a product that's not perfect, especially if you're more of a theory jockey like me and are insisting on that perfection, can be a real way to figure out how to optimize your process and get products out the door that are at the right level of perfection. And oftentimes you're going to be able to reach a much broader audience.
There's certainly times, right? There's certainly times for 100%, and there's certainly times for 95%. Like brain surgery.
Brain surgery, yeah. You don't want a 95% perfect.
I don't want a 95% on
exactly.
my brain. But yeah, for other times, you can get a lot more done.
Absolutely. So I do want to say there's nothing wrong with thinking about how we deliver the best kind of product and thinking deeply about that, because that's really often how we as theory jockeys sort of add value, because we bring about that accountability and standards and offer these toolkits and processes that can be really valuable in product design. But it's when our desires, our perfectionist desires, either paralyze us or worse, paralyze the team, that it's really just time to get out of the way. So Cameron's speaking tomorrow, and he has this great quote relevant to this, that the only way to really successfully ship products is to ship imperfect products. And that's a pretty concise synopsis of what we wanted to bring to the table today. So another question is, am I meeting others where they're at? And have you ever been in a meeting where you made somebody do this? And yes, or you've been on the receiving end of it too, I'm sure. And this is a behavior I quite often see in my students, so I'm familiar with it. And I think a lot of this is brought about because as designers, as Laura Martini says here, we're really good at researching our users, but we don't often put that same rigor into the way that we treat our own colleagues, the people at our own companies. And we tend to use a lot of rhetoric, a lot of vocabulary. It's almost like this is handed down by the design gods and must be used. But really, when you boil down to it, the different types of roles that we need to be successful in a product company that we need to interact with successfully just have basically a built-in snooze filter a lot of time when we're talking about things this way, right? Because if you're talking to engineers, going a little too fast here. If you're talking to engineers, they really often just want to know, how does this affect my efficiency, or how is this going to affect my day at work? If you're talking to a product manager, what does this mean for the business? What does this actually mean for my KPIs? So we could think about ways to translate our terms a little bit, just throwing a few quick examples out. User research, if we're talking to engineers, this is a trick Laura Martini uses. Talk about root cause analysis, because that's a more familiar term oftentimes. Rapid prototyping, I know a lot of product managers here are probably familiar with that, but if you getting some resistance, just talk about how it's a way to learn faster, and when it's cheaper to learn as well. And then even the designers, the tool junkies on your team, sometimes they need a really concrete example. So My colleague Aaron Walter likes to talk about this principle of story first and storytelling.
Yeah.
But to a tool junkie, what does that mean? So it could be a tool like storyboarding.
That's right. I like to have something to react to. And that's the sort of thing, you coming to me and saying, this is where we're going to go, this is this is blah, blah, blah. You know, I've got all these words coming down, I kind of check out, right? But when you pitch me the story, you give me the visual, I can respond to that. That's my language. That's what I speak.
There we go. Speaking the language of your colleagues. So Stephen, tell us some extremism warning signs.
Okay, so we went through balance for both sides here, right? Both for the tool junkies and for the theory jockeys. Now we're going to talk about how do we detect these things? How do we detect when we're starting to be a little bit extreme, right? We're starting to take our strengths and turn them into weaknesses. So the first thing we can do, or first thing that we can look for, is if we've given ourselves permission to passively check out, right? I think everybody knows what this is, right? If you've seen the Lego movie, this is a great scene. But it's really that sort of thing where now you've given yourself permission. And you know what it is, right?
Sorry.
Were you listening? Okay, good. You've given like a team or a teammate, you've created this zone in your mind, kind of that snooze filter that you were talking about to a degree here, where you just tune out, right? You get on that Zoom meeting and you minimize it. And then you keep working, right? But you muted. You're there. You're there. You're phoning it in. Okay. This is dangerous for a couple of reasons, right? Not only is it disrespectful, and by the way, I'm preaching to myself here. Been there, done it, right? Mea culpa. But also, it's not fixing the problem, right? It's not fixing the problem, because here's the thing: maybe that meeting isn't worth the time that we're investing into it, right? But if nobody's saying anything about it, if nobody's interacting with one another, if you and I aren't chatting about that, how are we going to ever do right by the organization? Essentially, we're giving a bad process a pass here.
Just going to keep that
to
recurring on the
existing.
calendar.
Exactly, exactly. By the way, tool junkies, if you use Zoom, this is a real setting. Because I'm a tool junkie, I dig into the settings. Look at this, attention tracking. This is going to scare some of you. Lets the host see an indicator in the participant panel if a meeting or webinar attendee does not have Zoom in focus during screen sharing. You thought you were getting away with it. So if you have a tool junkie who's running the meeting, they're going to catch you on this, right? They're really going to catch you on this one. You're like, yeah, I'm here. And you know you've done that too. When somebody's like, Stephen, what do you think about that? Yes.
Fantastic.
Totally.
Love it.
Okay, so it's important to pay attention, right, to these diverse approaches, right? We all bring something to the table, which ultimately brings me to my next warning sign indicator. You've surrounded yourself with people and thinkers just like you. This is a hot topic, right? Like we talk about diversity. Diversity has a lot of different forms. But it's easy to do this. It's easy to create versions of yourself, right? And often it doesn't look like this. It might look a little bit more like this, though. Right? Where suddenly I'm talking to other tool junkies. They're excited about things. And it's not bad to bond with others over common interests, right? Like I might bond with people over Star Wars. I might bond with people over tools. That's not a bad
Edward
thing.
Tufte, maybe.
Yeah, or Edward
Probably
Tufte.
not, but
there we go. But the thing here is, like when we do this and we start to create our entire culture around this, we start to think that this is normal. Right? We start to think that this is our user, right? We've surrounded ourselves with people who think just like that. That's pretty dangerous. So it should probably look a little something more like this, right? Where we have lots of different people, lots of people pushing on the problem in different ways. And ultimately, that's going to help us be healthier, right? That's going to help us to play to our strengths. And that really brings us all the way home, so bring us home.
Bring it home. Yeah, bring us all back around. Really, we hinted this at the beginning, but each of us has sort of a little bit of a theory jockey or a little bit of a tool junkie. It's not one or the other. And figuring out how to balance those tendencies, or maybe even strengthen, like maybe I should be more of a tool junkie. I should learn more of that. Maybe you need to read more books. I should talk about that. So it's because if we can do that, if we can get better balance, then we can walk off into the sunset together happily.
That's beautiful.
Is that a moonset or is that a sunset?
It's
something. Sure. It's happy though.
I'm not doing that, by the way, on the way out. All right.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.